Hi, it's Clark on Temptress. This video is how to store your lithium iron phosphate batteries. When you're putting your boat up or you're going to be away for a while, what should you do to make life really good for those batteries? So I got a little notebook and I wrote down ideas, and this was like the first idea I wrote down last fall. Made perfect sense to do this in the fall because a lot of people put their boats away in storage in the north. Well, I forgot about it. I just didn't do the video. I did other videos. One of my patrons that does that Dream Believers level where they can ask me questions and stuff just called me yesterday, in fact, and said, hey, I'm leaving my boat in Grenada for the hurricane season. And what do I do with my lithium batteries? So we had a long discussion about it, and I said, geez, I should have done this video because I could have just said, hey, look at the video. So in the future, this is the video to look at. This is my opinion on what to do to make lithium iron phosphate happy when you're not around. Okay, common knowledge says, take the battery, bring it down to 50% charge, disconnect it from everything, and if it has a switch like this does, turn it off. Turn off the BMS. That's because the BMS is a little computer that's running all the time and using a little power out of the battery. The idea is you just want to keep it at more or less 50%, and that's supposed to be the best for long-term storage. That's how you can slow the clock down, because they all age, and they're just going to age by calendar and things. So that would give it the longest life. And you're supposed to come back every now and again, and I've heard every different description of when now and again is. 6 months maybe, and bring it back to 50%. Well, that's not easy, because how do you tell when a battery is at 50%? It's awkward with these guys. So, well, that's what you're supposed to do. I'm not going to do that. Let's talk about why you're supposed to do that. If you fully charge these guys and you charge right up into the high voltage range, for a while, they're going to be up at that high voltage range. It's very slow self-discharge. You know, you take a lead and bring it up to 14.5 volts. 10 minutes later, it's down to 12.8. Well, more or less. It slows down, but it's on its way down pretty fast. These can take a long time to come down. And when you're above this magic number that appears to be 13.48 volts for a 12-volt nominal battery, you're in the range where the activation energy of a certain chemistry can happen. And if the cells are full at that time, bad chemistry happens that really hurts the battery. This is the bank manager. We're going to talk about the settings in the bank manager in a minute, but its whole goal in life is to make these play nice with lead and to make these not be overcharged up into that higher voltage deal. If you follow that rule, you would be fine. But your life's kind of miserable. You have to disconnect the battery from your charge sources and your loads to do that. Well, if your boat's being stored in the water or it's on the hard, but you know, maybe there's a leak or two, especially when it snows because that causes dams and water can get in, you can end up with a full bilge. You want your bilge pumps working. They need batteries. So we don't really want to do that. We don't want to disconnect them. Also, it's a pain to disconnect them. So let's see, what would you do? Let's start out with if you didn't have a bank manager. You didn't have this guy. I had to think about that because the guy I'm working with owns 2 boats, and he has a bank manager on one, and he doesn't have a bank manager yet on the other one. He just bought it. So what we ended up deciding, and what I'm deciding, and I'm going to go on record, he had nice Victron gear for charging, and he had solar panels that were going to be up. So we set his solar charge controllers to absorb at 13.4 and to float at 13.3. That will make sure this battery never goes up into those higher voltages. It's not going to be at 50% charge. It's going to be charged higher, but I think not going up into those higher voltages is enough protection. And that's what he's going to do. And I think that's a fine thing to do. Now, if you have the bank manager, you get to have some other features. One of the things the bank manager does is when it finishes the charge cycle, and you get to define that in the menus, but when it says, okay, that battery is fully charged by the definition of the human that owns me, it puts a little asterisk on the screen. It's not on there now. And it says this battery is not a candidate for a full recharge cycle. And until it drops below a certain plateau of percent of charge, it won't be a candidate for a recharge cycle. So we can use that to our advantage for storage. If we go into the menu and we set the charge to number, I recommend it being set to 100, but maybe for storage, I would say bring it down, and I think setting it for 80% seems reasonable. And then the lithium bank size will be the same as it was before, of course. The reset charge. By default, I set that to 80, means until it drops down 20%, you're not a candidate for a full-on recharge cycle, because you don't want like every cloud going and restarting the recharge cycle. So we're going to bring that down, and I think 40, oops, I'm going the wrong way. Bring that down, and I think 40 is a good number. So if I set this to like 40 and leave, and then I'll go back to resume operation. We've now set it up so that when it drops below 40%, as far as the bank manager knows, it will let your solar panels charge the battery back up to 80%, so not right to the top. It'll know it's at 80%. The percent of charge number will be 80. It'll start counting amps as it goes down. And then when it gets to 40, it'll redo the cycle. Now, it likely will only redo the cycle a few times a year, right? But I wanted to do some cycling because the bank manager can only see the power that's going through the current sensor, and it can't see the power that self-discharges in the cells, because there's a little of that happening, and it can't see the power that the BMS is using up. So that's why I set the lower unit to 40%, you know, to give it a swing position, but not all the way down. Because if this took months and months and months, the battery might be more like 20%. So it would do a charge, it would come back down. Like I'm saying, you kind of want a load of some kind. But remember, in the bank manager world, you do have a load. You have the lead batteries. And the lead batteries require a small amount of current, and it depends on the health and the size of your lead batteries, out of your lithium to keep them going. So you have this little, maybe a third of an amp or something coming out when the solar panels aren't functioning. And yay, that makes it pretty good. But you've got the big beefy battery available and the lead battery available should your bilge pumps have to come on. Maybe you blow a seal or you break a through hull, corroded through when you're away, a hose clamp bursts. Things happen. And it's nice to have the boat be able to have all the power it needs and hopefully enough solar during the day to keep those bilge pumps running, you know, for months until you get back. So that's probably my favorite, or maybe I should say my second favorite. Because I left Temptress for a little while to get over some sadnesses and stuff, and then I got sick, and I'm getting ready to go back, of course, but she's been 2 years all alone, and I should tell you what I did and what I chose to do with Temptress. I did not a damn thing. I just left. I left the bank manager set at 100%. I left the recharge cycle set for 20%. The bilge pumps are there and ready to be used. I guess lights get used when someone comes and checks on the boat for a few minutes. But I do have a little refrigerator that's running. I had some things that I didn't want exposed to the tropical heat, so I set it for like 50 degrees, and that's been running all this time. So there is a load. Solar panels are taking care of it. And it's fine. Am I shortening the life compared to lowering the voltages down a little bit? Yeah. How long do I expect those lithium batteries to last when I cycle them daily? Like 14 years? Look at my age. Those are the last batteries I'm ever going to need. I don't care. The new owner can buy new batteries, and by then they'll probably be, you know, like $1.50. So I think the right thing to do, as long as you're using something that's protecting from that overcharged situation, which means the bank manager, because nothing else is doing it, you can just walk away and feel good. And the nice thing about walking away and feeling good is you're not making a last minute change when you're stressed about your flight and you're stressed about leaving your boat and you wonder if you've set it up right and you're wondering if something might go wrong while you're away. Well, you've been testing it in the normal mode for like the last 6 months. So you know the boat can handle that. Just walk away. It'll be fine. That's my advice on what to do with lithium iron phosphate batteries. This is probably a religious debate because we don't really know how these things die. They just last so long. We have good ideas about how lead dies because, that might happen in like 4 or 5 years. I want your comments down below. I always want your comments down below. It helps the video get more seen, and I always appreciate it when you guys make me a little comment. But if you think I'm wrong, or you think I'm right, or you think you've got a completely different idea of how these guys should be stored, let's put it down below. Let's get a discussion going on. If there's something that I agree with, I'll put it in the description saying, hey, look at the comments. Jim said this, and I think he's got a good idea. So check the description too. Bye from Clark on Temptress.